Hey, folks, welcome back to the series, Making Data Simple. This is Al Martin speaking. I hope this message meets with you well. This morning, I will be interviewing two people on the topic of augmented reality data visualization. That's kind of a mouthful. We're going in deep now, I think, at this point. And I've got two experts with me today, like I say, Ben, Alfredo. Ben, why don't we start with you? Why don't you introduce yourself, and then I'll turn it over very quickly to Alfredo.
Sure. I'm a researcher and front-end developer in IBM's design department. I've spent some time working on IBM's graph database and some time as a quantitative user researcher for IBM Analytics. And now I work with Alfredo and Jay Griffin full-time on IBM's Immersive Insights.
Fantastic. Alfredo?
Hello, I'm Alfredo Ruiz. I'm the design lead of Immersive Insights, and we've been working on this project for like a year and a half. Working with 3D visualizations and now starting to use augmented reality.
Awesome. So you guys are like I said, you're delving into new frontiers here. So we've targeted big data. We've talked about making data simple. That's obviously the name of the podcast. But now augmented reality. I think most people listening think about augmented reality in terms of I don't know, like the Samsung glasses that you put on and then you start playing games. You guys are applying this to data. Can you just talk about what it is, what got you here, why it's important?
It's been a long road. Alfredo started this project through a Blue Unicorn initiative.
Yeah, so we started this project, as I mentioned, like a year and a half. I joined IBM 2 years ago, a little bit more than 2 years ago. And the first thing that my background is industrial design. Later, I started doing UX. And I started working in David Townsend's team, working on some explorations with data. And I have this big passion for 3D objects and physical objects. So we started exploring this, how we can visualize information in a beautiful way. And from there, we become this advanced concept group and exploring these type of ideas. And later, Rob Thomas created this initiative called Blue Unicorn. So we partner, the design team, we partnered with some development folks. Jay Griffin was our developer, who also started exploring these ideas and become, at the end, Immersive Insights.
Yeah, so part of how we thought about it is what is the best way to understand data? If you start from first principles, there's a really great interview where Elon Musk talks about like how he thought about designing a rocket ship, and if you break it down to the raw materials, not what's today, but what is theoretically possible, what's the best possible way to do this? We sort of started to think about data visualization from that perspective, and with the five senses that we have, what's the best possible way to get the most useful information and the best signal to noise ratio of useful information into the analyst's brain? And we think that 3D is a big part of that, and using the entire natural world around us as opposed to just a 2D screen.
So I went out there, and you've got a great video on YouTube. And can you describe that experience for the listeners here? I mean, remember, they're on there. They'll go out to YouTube, I'm sure of it. But can you describe what it feels like and what you're trying to accomplish within that video, by example?
Yeah, sure. So, for example, with Immersive Insights, if you're looking at a map, we've managed to make it so that you can look at a map of New York City, and you can actually scale this map to fill a room. And sort of in the same way, like, if you watch Game of Thrones, Daenerys Targaryen is looking at this big map of Westeros, and that's how generals look out at their battlefield. But we think that executives who are figuring out their supply chain might actually enjoy having a map of the world on the table in front of them and analyzing, seeing what factories are having issues, that type of thing, like this visual experience of having the world laying out on that table right in front of you while you're conducting that meeting. Likewise, for the other types of analysis we're doing, which are more technical and more data scientist oriented, like Immersive Insights, what I have experienced personally as a user is this idea of being surrounded by data. So if I'm thinking about a particular data set, it's on my mind constantly, and I'm thinking about it in new ways. But if I'm wearing a pair of augmented reality glasses and looking at the data around me in the space that I live in, it becomes this physical manifestation of my thought process and of my analysis. That's
I think you answered one of my questions. My question was, are we going to be looking at a C-suite executive at some point that's going to have a helmet on, and they're going to be like reaching out into space, as you're walking past their office? I mean, you got to wear a helmet or glasses to immerse yourself into this?
Well, I think that's we're getting there. If you see all the big players in tech, they're putting a lot of money in augmented reality. A good example was like the new iPhone, right? They're adding augmented reality. So I think it's going to be an evolution, and we can go back and see when we start with the punch cards, and then we move to the desktops, then to mobile. Now with everybody is like using a smartphone, right? And I think that's part of the changes that we're going to start experiencing now with AR. I think we're coming into this phase that we're emerging from a mobile phone, from this thing that we have in our hand, to now having something in our face that is sunglasses that is where we can see information and experience the world in a very different way. And I think we're moving towards that.
As a side note, when I think about augmented reality, I envision a day where, like we're going to have the Super Bowl, the big game in the U.S. for football, where we're going to have all these stands set up in these different seats, where I'm going to be at home and I'm on the 50-yard line and I'm watching this thing just like I'm sitting there. I think that day is very near. Anyway, so you mentioned Immersive Insights. Can you define that for me?
Yeah. So, Immersive Insights is we're focusing right now with data scientists. The idea is that we're helping them explore information in a different way by enhancing these virtual tools, right? When we talk with about AR, the big thing with this is that you can actually see your real environment as well. If we compare to virtual reality, you're basically immersed in a different world.
Closed off.
Yeah. So with AR, you can actually see your environment, work with your real tools. For example, right now we're using data science experience. So a data scientist can use data science experience, work with their data, analyze it, and then go a little bit deeper with Immersive Insights, putting on a headset, and they can now actually start walking around their data and start, seeing these relationships and patterns that maybe with the regular tools that might take like a few, some hours, and with this exploration and this immersion, you can start seeing patterns and relationships in just seconds.
So let me ask you another question. So yesterday, just as soon as yesterday, I did a keynote and I talked about making data simple and all the different elements of data, from hybrid data management to unified governance to analytics and visualization. And when I got to visualization, kind of what you're talking about here, I talk about 4 different elements. Planning analytics, that obviously answers what is your plan. Descriptive analytics, that answers what happens. Diagnostic analytics is where we would bring Watson in, that is, why did it happen? And then finally, predictive analytics, and what's going to happen next. And a product that we have is SPSS. So do you envision like a 5th form of augmented reality to look at this data, or do you see augmented reality encapsulating all those 4 elements that I just described?
I would actually say that it's just another method of conducting those methods you described. And as enterprises, I've actually heard it described another way, which is this journey from descriptive analytics and to predictive, and then to automated decision making. So that's sort of another framework for thinking about this maturity curve, where you have this first an understanding of your data, second of all, suggestions about what you should do with that data, and finally, cognitive systems that can act on that data without human intervention, or perhaps just with approval. And I think it's likely that we'll see systems like Immersive Insights that allow you to understand what those cognitive systems are doing, what that analytics system is thinking, use some sort of 3D representation within your world, and get information that's relevant to what your task is. Happen like you get that information instantly. So like when we talk about the transition from mobile to AR, we're talking about getting data faster. So you don't even have to pull out your mobile phone. The moment that important alert occurs about your stock crashing, about disruption to your customers, you can get that in your headset that moment and complete information. So the complete information, like when we're talking about the Instacart data set, which is this data set of people and information on all of the food that they've purchased, that's like sort of describing who that user is to the Instacart product team. With immersive insights and dimensionality reduction techniques, you can actually visualize all of those users in 3D space. So one of the things we want to do is to be able to summarize all of the important information to your business that a predictive analytics tool might give you different ways of diving into, and to take that high-level summary and act on it. So that might have been a little rambling, but
no, that's good. I mean, actually, this is fascinating to me. But here's the thing, and this may be a question that you kind of already answered, but I'd like to kind of hit it again. And I think it'd be good for listeners. At least it'd be good for me. So I'm assuming it's going to be good for listeners. And that is, look, if I'm in the C-suite, or it doesn't matter, I'm any persona out there, and I just described to you a minute ago, visualization technologies that already exist today. What is going to cause me to say the current visualization, or the current technologies just don't get it done, and I'm going to put on those glasses, that headset, whatever, to get into 3D? What would promote me to do so?
Well, I think it's some analogy that we've been talking about is, for example, when you're seeing a picture of a forest, right? You see it looks beautiful, like you can see a few trees and all of that. And how different it is when you actually arrive to that place, right? Like you can actually see much more details. You can walk around it and experience it in a very different way. And that's the way we feel with augmented reality. With immersive insights, you can actually walk around the data and start seeing these different patterns. And we're used to see the world in 3 dimensions, right? So our brain, it's better for us to understand information when we see it in this way. So I think that's a big it's a great benefit that for having this type of tool, and when you're like with executives or different type of users, and you can see the information and these patterns this way, I think it's going to be a game changer.
I mean, is that to say that, it's kind of like anything? I mean, you can look at, there's many ways to get data, pull data, see data, but because, we're used to the 3D images, you think it's going to be more organic, by which we'll get more out of it. It'll be easier to visualize, hence the name visualization, and be able to drive data insight with augmented reality, the 3D images that you're talking about?
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of different aspects to why we believe in the project, why we see this becoming a big piece of the future. One is just we deeply believe that AR is the best way to accomplish a wide variety of computing tasks. So to give a concrete example, you have a desk probably in front of you, and that desk has a jar of pencils, maybe it has a stack of books. and you have these items that are arranged in a very specific way that matches this mental model you have of the world that you then exert on the world. You control it and you shape it in this way that makes sense to you and helps you interpret and understand. Right now, with computers, we're existing in this world of 2D projections where you stare at the screen, you manipulate text documents and web pages, and you're just looking at 2 dimensions. But there's 3 dimensions in the world, and like one of the best things we have is depth perception. Like there's so much stuff our brain's doing behind the scenes that is just subconscious, that are all these environmental cues we pick up on. So you could have this graph of, say, real-time usage information, and you could just put it on your bookshelf. And assume that you're wearing glasses everywhere you go in 6 years, and this is just the next computing platform. Then when you walk into your office, Immersive Insights has generated this graph on your bookshelf in this place exactly where you want it, showing real-time actionable information about what your customers are up to today. And you don't have to dig around in a 2D screen in a folder to find that. That's one aspect of it.
So you talked about Instacart, the Instacart, which is a good example. Are there any other examples that you'd mention, or is that probably the best example that the audience can put their mind around?
I think like we have brought like a few posts in Medium. The audience can definitely take a look in our Medium accounts and see what we've been writing. We've been exploring like different fields like finance and other industries as well. So I think we have a good range of opportunity here. So yeah.
I'd say, so my background is in quantitative user research. So it's very easy for me to think about there's all of the customers of a business. And for me, part of being on this team has been using this tool to address questions I'm interested in about how customers behave. So use cases where you're mapping out all the users for your business in 3D space and trying to understand the relationships with them have come naturally to me. But as a team, certainly if there's any data scientists out there listening to this, we want to get beta users in the next 4 months or so.
Yeah,
and we would love for you to reach out to us and to hear about your ideas for what kind of visualizations would be useful to you.
That's awesome. So 2-part question is we're kind of starting to wrap up a little bit. So is this technology available today, or when do you think it's going to be available? And I guess to extend it further, what do you think the future of this technology is?
So yeah, we're starting to work on some integrations in data science experience. So that's our next stage for our project. So far we have done demos and we present this at South by Southwest. We also in Fast Track Your Data in Munich and many other places. Rob Thomas, for example, did he was in the main stage in World Watson and also did the Strata Hadoop conference. But now we're focusing more on adding this into our portfolio, so people can start like using it and start exploring with this technology.
Yeah, so we'd love to. Our goal is to make this available to IBM's global elite clients next March, and to sort of talk about the future a little bit. Like in the next 10 years, we see big changes to the design industry, really disruptive changes in how designers operate. There's so many infrastructure tools being made that are making it easier for a single developer or a single designer to create products. And we see the experience becoming less and less about technological limitations because they're being overcome, and more about what is the optimal user experience. It's a very liberating time to be a designer, because if you can think of a creative solution, increasingly you can make it real. So we're excited to continue working on this project and moving it forward.
So here's what I heard. So it's not quite available yet, though you can get information like on YouTube, et cetera. We'll put that in the show notes. You're looking to integrate it with the data science experience. For those listening, that is our IDE in analytics that really enables and empowers the data scientists. We're going to release to elite clients first. And then I thought I heard you within the dialogue saying, hey, you're willing to partner with clients or data scientists that have ideas that they'd like to explore. Is that what I heard right?
Yeah, we would certainly love those people to reach out to us.
Definitely.
So where can the audience go to get more information? I mean,
well, they can definitely reach out to. We can put our emails there, and also we have Medium accounts where they can see stuff that we write. And I have a Twitter account. It's Alfredo Ruiz C. So yeah, reach out, and we would love to talk. I would also like to add, like, we're also in the run right now. We're finalists in a couple of design awards. So if people want to help us with their vote, that'll be pretty cool.
You know, my kids are grown up now, but I'd like to see the VR world get to the point where everybody's off the couch versus pushing buttons. They're playing like a sports game in a virtual reality room with a virtual team. When's that going to come so we can see the kids get off the couch? That's what I want to see.
Pretty soon.
So let me finish up with you guys, and I like to always do a little lightning round or a speed round just to get to know you a little bit. It's always interesting for me, particularly in terms of doing some follow-up research. And so my first question, you guys have been doing a great job. Anyone can answer, but my first question is, what are you currently reading, or what books would you recommend?
Well, I'm currently reading. It's called The Fourth Transformation. It's by Robert Scoble, and he's talking about this new era that we're living and how we're changing from smartphone to now these type of technologies. And I think it's pretty interesting. Another great book that I would recommend if you like this type of technologies, Ready Player One. It's a science fiction story, and it's pretty entertaining about the future and how the world is going to change when we start experiencing with all of these technologies. Is pretty interesting. Well, the fourth transformation.
All right, cool. We'll get that in the show notes as well. Any others?
I've been reading a biography by Sam Walton called Made in America.
Yeah.
A little bit, not really augmented reality, but been enjoying it.
No, that's all right. All right. What do you enjoy about it? I mean, this is like, there's no rules here. It doesn't have to be augmented reality. What makes that interesting to you? I've actually read it too, but what are your thoughts?
I think it's really interesting to compare how he scaled his business and how he thinks about his employees in particular is what struck me, and how they create value versus how value is being created now by companies like Amazon and the digital age.
Nice. Agree. Two more questions. One is, so what's the next big thing that you guys want to do? It can be personal, professional. Just curious. What's the next big thing on your list?
Well, I think for me right now, I have a 1 year and a half daughter, so it's it's a really fun experience right now. It's my first kid, so it's great to experience and be around her and see how she's changing, and it's really fun to that stage. So I'm focusing on that, and well, I definitely looking forward to see the evolution of
Hey, change the priorities, right? Good. You make sure you dedicate time, because they told me, and you never believe it, that time goes fast. I promise you that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and you mentioned about your kids and how they're playing video games and all of that.
Yeah.
We went to a trade show, a conference, and we saw some of the new coming VR games. and they're really cool. Like it's definitely going to change the way we play games. It's pretty interesting.
Very good.
I'm a technological optimist, but if I had kids, I would not let them touch VR until they're at least a teenager.
Well, that's why is that? I might as well ask. You wouldn't let them touch VR because of?
It's incredibly immersive, and I think it's just another level of like video games. At least the screen's not occupying their whole world. I think it's important for kids to learn how to exist independently of technology and be social creatures. But
see, the difference is when I was young, we actually used to go outside and play. I don't know that anybody recognizes that there is a door that leads to the external world. They'd have to call me in and find me. Hey, last question. I did a keynote yesterday, and I must have had 10 new graduates come up, and I probably wasn't the best one to give them advice, but they wanted advice on where to really become an expert in data science. They were saying, should I get my master's? I mean, stuff that, is personal decisions, but you're in the data science field. In terms of becoming an expert and really, pushing the envelope, is there any advice you'd give to the folks that are nearly graduating or about ready to graduate?
Yeah, well, I think I'm not an expert in data science, but I think the new tools that are around us. A good example is again like data science experience. I think they're fairly easy to use, so they can start exploring by themselves and start learning. We have this thing called internet that you can basically see get information of everything and learn a lot from there. So yeah, I think that's a great starting point.
My advice would be use Coursera and use online free courses, because in this day and age, to get through an interview, you just have to have the skills. I think a diploma with a name on it matters less than it does now for a technical position. And there's great resources to learn incredibly valuable skills and not pay anything on the internet.
Fantastic. I think I'm out of questions, at least for now. I mean, I could keep going on and on, as you might imagine, but I always like to give you guys the last word in case there's anything that I missed or something you're passionately you're passionate about that we didn't say.
Well, no, I guess we really thank you for this interview, and we're definitely looking forward to keep showing the world the way we're innovating and how these tools can definitely be a game changer for a lot of people, for the industry.
Thank you so much. This has been fascinating. Talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Making Data Simple podcast, where we make data fun. Be sure to visit IBMBigDataHub.com/podcasts to access the show notes and uncover even more great episodes. Remember, the views expressed here are those of the host and its guests and do not necessarily represent the views of IBM. Until next time, over and out.